Well, hello, my dear friends. It's so good to be together again, and I've been sort of pondering about whether I should start getting ready for Christmas things or not. I don't know, it always seems a little bit early, and then suddenly the rush is there and the Christmas is upon you. So I thought, well, let me start. So I've got a day off today, which is really grand, and I've decided to try and use some of my scraps of bits and pieces of card that I've got rather than going to buy some, and I thought I'd make some Christmas cards. So the first one I'm going to do is just a very simple one. I picked up this lovely die cut from the range. I think it was only less than £1, which is really nice, and it cuts very well. And I have some sheets of very thin metal, so I've die cut one of these little reindeers out, and I've curled its little horns. So I've been really happy with that. Then I have some scraps of card. I've got this lovely thick white card, which is 200 grams, and I had offcuts of this sort of shimmery silver paper and some of this sort of almost mirror board, but it's more like a paper than a mirror. And I thought, let's see what we can do with it. Excuse me. So this is just going to be a very quick video, but just to show you simple things, what you have lying around at home and what we can make with them. So let me just set my little dies aside. So I've taken my white card, which is the 200 grams, and I've folded this now to make a nice sized card. I have taken some pieces of my different silver papers, and if you remember, I've got this sort of slightly textured one here, and then I've got this mirror one. So I've cut a couple of layers. I'm going to have one that stretches side to side there, and don't ask me with measurements, I just go the way I feel. And then I've cut one slightly smaller, maybe about 1/2 centimeter on either side. And then I have a piece of this mirror board with a bit of mulberry paper that I've stuck over it. I want the mulberry paper as texture for the little design with the reindeer, because it just feels it's snow-like. It's got a thread in it, so it gives it a nice texture. But on its own, it doesn't show up very nicely if I put it straight onto this darker silver paper. So I'm just using the mulberry paper just to give it a bit of, the mirror board paper underneath, just because it's reflective, just to give it a bit of a background. So that's going to be my layering there. So let's start to assemble this. I prefer using double-sided tape when I'm working, simply because I find it less messy. So I have pre-prepared this, and my go-to thing for getting the corners up, provided that you've rubbed them down well to begin with, is to just use the blade of a craft knife. So I can rip those off quickly. If you battle with double-sided tape, just make sure you've got your corners rubbed down really well, and that normally does the trick. Otherwise, try a different corner. Okay, so I'm now going to take my piece of white card, and I'm going to position this over my silver. And if you were doing this as sort of mass production for your Christmas cards, then it would be very easy, because you'd be able to determine, once you've made your first prototype, what measurements you want to use, and off you go. So here we go. I'm just going to take these layers and start layering them up. And as I said, I used that little bit of shiny mirror paper underneath, just simply to give a bit of reflection through the mulberry paper, because the mulberry paper itself is so transparent. Right, so you can always use your cutting mat if you're not sure about layering things up. And my last little thing here that I'm going to do is to be able to place that on. So I'm getting to the beginning there. And then for my sentiments, I'm using the same sort of techniques, where I've got some shiny mirrored paper at the bottom, white, and then I've backed my sentiment with a little bit of this mirror board, just because it gives it a bit of reflection and helps make it pop. So let's assemble those. Oh, I was very clever with this one. I didn't put double-sided tape on. Right, give me a second. I must say that I love double-sided tape. I can get myself into a huge mess in a quick space of time. So for me, this is just the answer when doing paper crafts. I wouldn't use it for a lot of other things, although when I worked in the theatre, I was a wardrobe mistress. We did use it quite a lot there, and I'm not going to tell you what we used it for because you wouldn't believe me, but yes, we used it quite a lot in the theatre. So that was just one of my episodes in my life. It was rather fun. We used to make these spectacular costumes, and I remember one day we were making costumes for the Merry Widow, and I'd spent 2 weeks sitting and the office, well, not the office, in the wardrobe, sewing miles and miles of tulle. What we used to do was edge the tulle with gorgeous coloured thread, just so that it stood out under the lights. And I remember just sitting with these bolts of fabric next to me, just feeding it through the overlocker. But during the dress rehearsals, one of the ladies in the cast was off sick, and the director said to me, "Oh, won't you just try the costume on? I just want to see what it looks like with the hair and makeup." Oh, ignorance is bliss, isn't it, when you're young? Anyway, I obliged him, and before I knew it, I was poops on the stage. And I hadn't even seen a dress rehearsal of the show, so I didn't really know what was going on. And it was a bit daunting because we had to come down this steep flight of steps. Anyway, the gentleman who was escorting me, who was meant to be my partner in the show, was very kind to me and helped me, but it was totally terrifying to be on the other side. Anyway, right, so let's get back to card making. Right, so I'm going to show you the quick assembly of this. I think I'll put my sentiment about there, and I like to get my sentiment down first, just in case I need to wiggle my focal point a little bit. So let's peel off this double-sided tape. One of the things I liked about this little reindeer design when I was doing it was, first of all, it was really shiny, so it did stand out nicely. But secondly, it just seemed to just lift itself. Just when I embossed the metal, it just sort of picked up its little horns and things like that. And I'm going to leave it like that so that the horns do stand away and the legs do stand away, so that it feels almost as if this little design is 3D. So the first thing I'm going to do now is to stick down all the mats that I've got for the background of the focal point. And then I will, once I've got that down, play around with where I want to put my reindeer. I have actually already put tape on the reindeer, so that will be good. But let's just get this matting down. Right, remember, rub the corners down really well, that's so important. And then they will flick up easily. There we go. Right, which way do I want it? I wanted to have this little thread here. I don't know if you can see this little thread. I just wanted that almost representing a little hill. And I will bring that down to about there, I think. Great. So I've got that down, and I have pre-prepared this and had my little double-sided tape on. So this might not be as easy to lift off because the metal is embossed. Let's just see how we're doing here. You've just got to be a little persistent. I thought about trying other glues, but I felt that they might squeeze out through some of the embossing, and I didn't want to mess on the card, so I will just persevere with the double-sided tape. Actually, it's not, oh, having said that, the whole tape came up. So just let me rub it down and secure it onto the piece that's already peeled off. That should help a lot. There we go. That's stuck down, and this last little bit. So if you have little bits that might have just overhung the edges, then you just take your blade of your knife and just push them in. Oh, this one keeps peeling off. Go on, stay on here for me. There we go. Right, so I've taken, as I said, this little vein that's here, and I felt that that would be quite nice to almost make it feel as if it was kind of on a mountaintop, but I don't want it sort of in an awkward place, so I think I'm just going to put it there. And as I mentioned, I like the fact that its little horns curl up slightly and its legs aren't totally secured to the border, because then it gives it a little bit of 3D. So I hope you like that. It's a really simple idea, just using what I have, and I hope you've enjoyed this. It's lovely to be with you again, and I have a couple more to do with these metal things and some to do with repurposing soda cans. So those are actually stunning, so just wait for those. I'll be posting those soon. Bye for now.